Joined now by Toronto Maple Leafs captain John Tavares. And John, almost to the day, 11 weeks after the NHL play was shut down, it looks like we're almost set to resume. Looks like phase two could start as early as next week, which means you'd be back skating with some of your teammates. How exciting is that to finally get that news?
Yeah, I think that to get that opportunity and just to feel the skates on the ice and to see some of the guys, obviously just familiar faces and be able to see how you're feeling and hopefully get back, ramping things up here in the near future. Obviously, very exciting to have that opportunity. I know we got a lot of hurdles still to face, a long ways to go, but see a big first step right around the corner here.
You were actually a big part of making that news because you're part of the Return to Play committee. What was that process like?
Yeah, it was a lot of hours on the phone. I think a lot of communication with the PA, with the league, with many players, trying to assess so many different things. And obviously with this situation, we know how fluid it is, how quickly it changes. And some of it we just had to wait. And we still are just waiting for more information, a better sense of where the world's at and how this virus is affecting us in all our lives, whether it's what we do every day or just our overall well-being. So there's so much into that, but it was a really good process and, some more things ahead, but certainly to kind of get us to this point, happy to be a part of it and really glad all the work that everyone that was a part of it put in.
Back in our minor hockey days, we were all part of the captain skates where coach is not allowed on the ice. So basically it's up to the captain to bring the guys back together and try to run things. And that's what phase two is going to be like. Your players, your teammates are starting to come back. How many of them have you heard from so far? Because you could possibly be back skating the small workouts as early as next week. And are you going to be a part of trying to organize those skates to get things together?
Yeah, I think right now that's still fluid as well. With the start of phase two, I know right now we don't have any commitment for any instruction, or we're not allowed to have any instruction, but I really hope that we can escalate that here in the early ongoing on phase two. I think once we kind of shake some of the cobwebs out and just be able to feel the ice, hopefully we can get some good instruction, whether it's player development staff or other staff that's kind of been extended, whether that's through a lot of the minor leagues and your affiliates that way. I really don't see coaching staffs being involved until training camp, but I think just the quality of training, if you're able to get some instruction, I think it goes a long way. But in the meantime, I think we're going to really rely on us as players. Obviously, probably every team has some sort of leadership group that will kind of be counted on for a little more responsibility there, and that's not a problem. I think hopefully with the experience I have now, I can have some guidance there, and then obviously take some feedback from the guys and get a sense from our performance and strength and conditioning teams that make some good recommendations and come up with a plan that obviously will be very beneficial and get us trending towards being ready to play.
Your phone ringing off the hook from teammates?
Not too bad. I think guys obviously once they've kind of gotten some more news and a little bit more clarity, there's a lot more questions and trying to get a better understanding of things. But it does sound like we've got the guys, quite a few guys that have left town are making plans on coming back. And obviously we got a lot of guys from the area here already and some guys that have stayed. So far the response has been great. I think guys obviously excited about getting back from the ice, being back together. There's still a few more hurdles with obviously some of the quarantine and travel restrictions and some of those rules, and guys still trying to figure out their plans and get a better sense of kind of what's coming down the road. So I think as days and the next couple of weeks go by, there'll only be more clarity. And I think once we get the ball rolling, hopefully things keep progressing very positively.
And after you get through phase two, then it's training camps, which is phase three. Then you'll be gathering in hub cities. You're still not certain where that's going to be. They say it's going to be kind of like a biosphere atmosphere where they're going to take you from the hotel to the rink and back and forth. But could that really be all there is? Would that be enough to make you feel safe and happy and comfortable moving forward in the training camp?
Well, I think a lot of that information, like I said, is still kind of coming to us. We're still waiting on what we're seeing in Canada and North America in terms of how the virus is affecting our communities. Obviously, there's a lot into that in terms of testing. and making sure that we're not overstepping any boundaries in terms of the people that need it most, and also understanding what we need to be able to play. So there's a very fine balancing act, but we understand what's most important, and once we can get to a place where we feel very comfortable that with local authorities, whatever communities we're in, that we can have a comprehensive testing program. And then in terms of kind of the bubble, so to speak, we haven't gotten into too many specifics on the return to play committee, but the league definitely has heard some of our thoughts, ideas, and concerns with obviously just trying to, live in that type of environment and what we could be facing and what's realistic, what's not. Like I said, I think more of those questions will be kind of coming down the road, but certainly, one way I kind of look at it is maybe trying to create some type of Olympic Village type of atmosphere. How secluded you are, at least from my experience when I was at the Sochi Olympic Games, and just you're really at the Village and really at your venues for the most part. Obviously, there's opportunities to go watch other sports, but and interact with different things. But we obviously know the restrictions and things we're dealing with now. So hopefully things continue to improve, and if we're back playing, I think that means our countries, our communities will be in a lot better place, and we'll feel a lot better about everyone's health and safety, not just I think us as players, but like I said, our communities, our countries, and our world as a whole.
What about you personally? It's been almost 3 months since you skated. How long do you need a training camp once you go through the small group workouts and then a full team training camp? How long does that camp need to be so that you could feel like you're ready to play in the Stanley Cup playdowns like that and feel physically able to do that without guys getting hurt?
Yeah, I think that's the kind of magic question I think we're going to be facing here very shortly is, what is going to be the appropriate time? It's obviously something we've never faced before. We've never really been in. It's not going to be perfect, but I think trying to get a sense through the first week, certainly the first week, maybe even into 10 days, 2 weeks of this phase 2, I think is really going to give us a sense from the players and the membership of kind of where we're at and maybe what we're going to need. It's really hard to kind of pinpoint it right now because we've just never really been through something like this. I know when we've talked with the league initially, we talked about if no one had been on the ice at all and we jumped right into a training camp, we talked about something around the 4-week mark. And that was just kind of at the spitballing stage. Obviously things have progressed now, and then phase 2 is right around the corner here. So hopefully once we get into there, we can have some good communication back and forth and get a sense of really where we're at. Obviously we want to be cognizant of getting back in proper shape, keeping guys safe and healthy. And then obviously we want the quality of hockey to be extremely high as well. I think that's very important. So it's a little bit of a balancing act, and hopefully over the next number of days and couple of weeks, we can kind of narrow that in.
Johnny, you're a hockey player, but first and foremost, you're a husband and you're a father of a young child. How much concern do you have about making sure that your family is safe through this, making sure that you can spend time with your family and with your child through all this? Because there's a lot of other guys in a similar situation to yours. They just don't want to be away from their families for too long an extended period of time.
100%. I think it's a very valid point, very valid concern, and something with the Return to Play Committee was brought up multiple times, and the league was very receptive and very understanding. Acknowledge it'd be very unreasonable to think that we'd be away from our families for a very extended periods of time, or putting anyone or any family at more risk or at any risk. So I think that's where we've really leaned heavily along some of the infectious disease experts that we've consulted, talked a lot about those different issues and things that we're talking about. So all of it's been very positive. And really happy with the things we're hearing. So I think things are trending in the right direction that way. Certainly, it's not an ideal circumstance, and it's not going to be perfect. But obviously, we're going to try to do everything we can to make everyone feel as comfortable as they can, as safe as they can, and understand having the understanding, the thought about being away from your families, and kind of what can we live with and what we can't. And those are the things that we still have to kind of determine and figure out.
Good news for you and the Toronto Maple Leafs right now is the fact that when play does resume, you're in a best-of-5 play-in, not with Boston, not with Tampa, but the Columbus Blue Jackets. What are your thoughts on that?
You know what? I haven't even really thought about it a whole lot. I think there's just going to be a lot of emphasis here. I think with our group, and we've already started communicating over the last couple of days of just how can we kind of get ourselves ramped up and prepared for once we get to that point where we can start really focusing and honing in on our opponent. We know how competitive our league is, how tight our league is, the parity, and Columbus has been a very proven team, an extremely hardworking, very well coached team for many years now, and certainly they've certainly earned where they are and every opportunity that they're getting. So we know we're going to be in for quite a series, and we're really going to have to earn it. So first and foremost, just try to take care of ourselves here, and then as the days and weeks go by, we know once we start getting ourselves closer and closer to hopefully competition, that focus will start to narrow in on our opponent.
I've known you for a long time. You're a real student of the game. You're a real passionate guy. The Stanley Cup awarded year after year in a certain way, and now this year there's going to be compromises surrounding it. Do you think we're going to look back on this 10 years down the road and say that wasn't a real Stanley Cup that was awarded in 2020?
I certainly hope not. I think considering what we're going through in the world, if we have the ability to come back and play and compete for the Stanley Cup, and a team has to potentially win 5 rounds to lift the cup over their head, it's going to be a pretty deserving winner. And it was talked heavily about amongst the players. This because I think anyone who gets their name engraved on it wants to earn it like any player before them did. But I think considering the circumstances and what so many other industries and businesses and people in the world are going through, if we're able to come back and compete for the Stanley Cup, I think we should feel very fortunate and really believe that we're going to get a really true deserving winner. And I think we can do a lot of good for the world in our communities, our countries, to be able to play and give them something to watch and cheer about, as we know how much each team is such a fabric in their city, in their community. I think hopefully we're talking about how difficult it was to win just because of all the circumstances and things that you had to deal with and overcome. Not like any other year that we're traditionally used to.
Toronto's still in the running to be one of the hub cities. Now, Gary Bettman says just because you get awarded the right to be a hub city doesn't necessarily mean you get to play at home, because they don't want to give you any advantages there. But if that happened, if Toronto became a hub city, you did get to play at home, what would that be like?
I don't really see it being any advantage. I mean, we're not going to have any fans, obviously, and I think that is such a big part of home ice. I think you need to be a little bit familiar with your surroundings, but really other than that, I don't see there being too much of an advantage one way or the other. Obviously, you're close to home, closer to your family. Obviously all those details have to be like we talked earlier, discussed in terms of what the bubble and kind of what the environment's going to be like in the hub city. But I don't really see it being too much of an advantage other than just being familiar with your surroundings.
Johnny, you've had a big task ahead of you, worrying about your family, worrying about yourself, getting back on the ice, and then being a part of the return to play committee. We thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and good luck. Stay healthy.
Thank you. You as well. Appreciate it.